Most people think danger looks loud, aggressive, explosive. They believe power comes from anger, dominance, or emotional intensity. But the most dangerous shift doesn't look like that at all. It looks like calm. It looks like distance. It looks like a man who stops caring. When a Sigma stops caring, he doesn't become weak. He becomes unpredictable, not because he loses control, but because he finally gains it. This isn't about apathy. It isn't about bitterness. And it isn't about giving up. It's about emotional detachment. The moment a Sigma disconnects from outcomes, approval, and external validation. And when that happens, something fundamental changes. People can no longer provoke him. They can no longer manipulate him. They can no longer leverage his emotions against him. In this video, we're breaking down the psychology behind why a Sigma becomes more dangerous the moment he stops caring. Not dangerous in a violent way, but dangerous in a way that shifts power silently. This is silent Apexx, and this is the psychology of emotional withdrawal. Caring is not the problem. Uncontrolled caring is. Most people tie their emotional state to things they can't control. Opinions, reactions, validation, outcomes. They care about being liked, being understood, being included, and because of that, they become predictable. If you know what someone cares about, you know how to control them. This is where most people lose power without realizing it. They explain themselves too much. They compromise boundaries to avoid conflict. They tolerate disrespect to maintain connection. Not because they want to, but because they're emotionally invested. The Sigma starts out the same way. He cares deeply about standards, alignment, respect, growth. But over time, he notices something. The more he cares, the more people test him. The more he explains, the less he's respected. The more emotionally available he is, the more his calm is taken for granted. This is the moment awareness begins. The Sigma realizes that emotional availability without boundaries turns into liability. So he starts pulling back. Not abruptly, not dramatically, internally. He stops reacting instantly, stops over-explaining, stops needing closure. This is not suppression, it's recalibration. And when caring becomes optional instead of automatic, power begins to return. When a Sigma stops caring, the first thing that disappears is emotional reactivity. He no longer rushes to defend himself. He no longer feels the need to correct perceptions. He no longer engages in battles that don't matter. And this creates something rare: silence. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it removes feedback. They don't know where they stand. They don't know how he feels. They don't know what to expect. This uncertainty shifts the dynamic. People who were once confident around him become cautious. People who relied on his emotional investment lose leverage because the Sigma is no longer emotionally predictable. He still observes. He still understands, but he no longer reacts automatically. This is where he becomes dangerous, not because he escalates, but because he chooses. When someone disrespects him, he doesn't argue. He disengages. When someone manipulates, he doesn't confront. He withdraws access. When someone tests boundaries, he doesn't negotiate. He removes himself. And this is psychologically destabilizing to people who expect emotional responses, because most control relies on emotional hooks. Once those hooks disappear, influence collapses. The Sigma becomes difficult to provoke, difficult to read, and difficult to control. Not by force, by absence. Detachment is misunderstood. People think it means not feeling, not caring, not connecting. That's false. Detachment means your inner state is no longer controlled by external behavior. The Sigma still feels. He simply doesn't outsource his emotional stability. When he stops caring about things that don't align with his values, three things happen. First, his focus sharpens. Energy that was once wasted on noise is redirected inward. Second, his decision-making improves. He no longer chooses based on fear of loss, but on alignment. Third, his presence changes. He becomes calmer, more deliberate, more grounded. People sense this, not consciously, but instinctively. Humans are wired to notice emotional stability. A man who isn't chasing approval, reacting emotionally, or defending his ego becomes a psychological anomaly. This is why Sigmas often gain respect without asking for it, not because they demand it, but because they're no longer dependent on it, and dependence is where power is lost. Here's the paradox. When the Sigma stops caring, others start caring more. They notice the distance, the lack of engagement, the emotional neutrality. Some try to pull him back with attention, others with guilt, others with confusion. But the Sigma doesn't respond the same way because he understands something now. Attention given under pressure is not respect, it's reaction. And he's no longer interested in reactions. So he maintains distance, not to punish, not to prove a point, but to protect clarity. This is where relationships change permanently. Some people adapt. They rise to his level of respect and consistency. Others fade. Both outcomes are acceptable to the Sigma because he is no longer operating from attachment. He is operating from alignment. The moment a Sigma stops caring, he crosses an internal threshold. He no longer asks, "How will this make me feel?" He asks, "Does this align with who I'm becoming?" This shift removes emotional chaos. He doesn't need to dominate conversations. He doesn't need to prove strength. He doesn't need to win arguments. His control is internal. And internal control always outlasts external influence. This is why a Sigma becomes dangerous when he stops caring. Not because he becomes ruthless, but because he becomes unreachable. If this resonated with you, understand this. Stopping caring doesn't make you cold. It makes you selective. It doesn't make you heartless. It makes you disciplined. And it doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. At Silent Apexx, we don't teach noise. We teach clarity. If this message aligned with you, like the video. Subscribe to Silent Apexx for more psychology, discipline, and silent power. Explore the channel. And remember, the most dangerous shift isn't anger, it's indifference. Controlled, deliberate, and silent. Move in silence.